Is this your king? Brother Polight. Yep, what's going on, party people in the place to be? I go by the name of the BK Apologist, transmitting all the way live. New York is the city, Brooklyn is the borough. What's good? What's popping? Happy Monday to each and every one of y'all. And of course, we gotta say what's up to the most incredible chat you'll find on the interwebs. We gotta say what's up to Revelator 007. We got CMB in the building. We got Bodega Lady Michelle Turner. Of course, we got the incredible, the indelible Nate 2D2 on the check-in. And of course, if you have not yet already, please like, share, and subscribe. Please share this link out into the universe so everybody could come and check out what we're doing. And if you like what BK be doing on his channel, you can show your support via PayPal. And if you'd like to be a monthly supporter of BK, you could become a patron. We get an assortment of study aids to help you in your personal Bible study. And we're back again. Oh, we got Born Again Rome in the building. See, we see more people coming in. That's what's up. That's what's up. We got Chris Gibson. What up, though? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's right. Tell a friend to tell a friend. And we're back on the series. We got to take a small pause for the cause and deal with the pagan police real quick on Easter. Got to deal with that. But we're back on it. There's a few more people that we need to set our sights on. And of course, we couldn't really do this series without this particular individual, Brother Polight. And with me today to speak about this particular individual is none other than my good friend Victor Von Doom himself, apologist in Detroit. What's going
What's going on, fam? I got my ancient Babylon hat on,
on?
my Egyptian and Israel shirt on. I'm ready to roll.
Nice, nice. So yeah, so tonight we'll be focusing on Brother Polight. So, apologist in Detroit. Let me ask a couple questions. What was your first time bumping into his material, and what was your initial thoughts about Mr. Polite?
Okay, interesting enough. So, yeah, those of you who know me know I have a now 30-year-old son, and he's been out of the house since about 21, 22 years old. So he's been out of the house about 8 years. And so at some point, he comes home, and okay, I had heard about Polite because he had went viral. So, you see him in somebody's music video, and then you're like, oh, who's this guy who keeps popping up in people's videos? You know what I'm saying? And then I kind of heard about him on social media, but I wasn't super familiar with him. And then my son comes home and starts talking about him and mentioned his name, and that kind of triggered me realizing, oh, he's talking about the guy from the rap video guy.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, that's kind of my first introduction to him. And then later on, because of that, I'm listening to my son talk about the things he's saying, and I'm like, I raised you better than that. That's nonsense. Kind of a stuff, and kind of doing a little bit of apologetics with my son. So that's how I became aware of Brother Polite. And then later on, he kind of crescendoed in his kind of social media awareness. And then there was the debate, the great debate that fell through. Then there was the usual chaos that ensues with people of his caliber and ilk, that unfortunately kind of ran him out of the limelight for a while. And then, if not, maybe a few months ago, I noticed, I was like, oh, that guy's back talking again. I thought he would probably be locked up by now. So
Wow.
yeah, that's kind of my history with Polite.
Oh man, that's hilarious. So just to introduce people to who we're talking about, because maybe some of us don't are not aware. Brother Polite, birth name Michael Noak, is an American motivational speaker and author who founded the New Covenant. As an author, Noak has published more than 90 books about UFOs, modern society, medicine, and the ancient Egyptian religion. Polite is culturally known as Nysut Amun-Re Sen Atum-Re. His artistic name, Polight, is an acronym for Pride, optimism, love, integrity, gallantry, honesty, and trust. Right. So I'm sure a lot of people didn't know that polite was actually an acronym, but it is. So uh that CMB is funny. He's a runner, he's a track star. Oh man. Oh, this is my new favorite channel. Keep up. Oh man, thank you so much. Please tell your friends to come aboard, and hopefully they'll feel likewise. You know, and hopefully it will be their new favorite channel as well. So thank you for that. So I want to start with a video that maybe some of us are aware of. And Michelle's funny. Listen, don't start. Don't start. So there's a video I want to share to give you kind of context with what I want to talk about when it comes to the debates that were supposed to happen with a particular urban apologist, right? So I just want to give some context. So I'm going to play this particular um particular video right here. So all right, here we go.
That's what you're telling us when you tell us that somebody gonna come off the sky. That's evil. Don't stop till the Bible's destroyed. Great shooting, Nysut. Hold on, can't see the rest of the sentence. Too much fucking holes in it. Look at that shit. That's right. Now it's a Holy Bible. That's right. Clearly the Holy Bible right now. Act like y'all never seen this before. We saw this February 8th. It's just gonna be worse. It's gonna be worse. Look what we did. The Bible or the bullet. That's what you're telling us.
So he went to a gun range and he shot up a Bible, right? So the reason why I share that, excuse me, of course, this was pre-planned, it was premeditated. There were some overdubs. He threw some music, right? It was a whole production here, right? And he did this on purpose, right? He did it to solicit a reaction and emotions to those of us who have, who love the Word of God, right? So the reason why I shared that video is that so when people like Pastor Bennett comes and presses Polight on issues, and Damon presses him about particular issues, when Polight responds in feign offense to these individuals, it's hypocrisy, right? Because when you put that Bible there to shoot, what you're saying is you're here for all the smoke, right? This idea of you be offended, that's off the table now. It's off the table now. You know, that's just what it is. You know, you can't get upset with Damon. You can't say I won't debate Damon because he offended me. That's hypocrisy. Because what you're saying is I could offend you. I could take one of your most sacred texts and riddle it with bullet holes. But if I don't like the way you talk to me, that's worse. You know, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Your thoughts, apologists.
Yeah, I put it in the comments. Like he like a little kid trying to act cool, trying to make everybody like him and stuff. That's how he came off to me with this whole, shoot up the Bible stunt. And unfortunately, this is this is this is the era in American history where victimhood is actually a cool thing. Used to be, as a dude, you didn't want to come off as weak, and playing the victim card made you look weak. Nowadays, playing the victim card makes you look cool, or hey, if you got haters, that makes you cool. So it's a sad state of affairs, and as we continue to kind of like delve into it and comment on Polight, I feel like it gets worse. Like this is like if we're starting here, it's only going to get worse. And this picture is like a great segue into it getting worse.
I mean, we're not going to forget. We're not going to forget. You ran from Damon Richardson. You did. And the reason for you to run was you feigned offense. You didn't like how he spoke to you or his behavior, which is very interesting because another viral clip of Polight is when he said that Jesus is the biggest fraud that's ever been perpetrated on black people. So why in the world do you want a black person to follow the teachings of Jesus? Because he'll be the first one to be like, "Oh, Damien wasn't acting Christ-like." So you want him to act like his imaginary friend? Because you don't believe he exists, right? You don't believe in Jesus. Definitely don't believe in his teachings. You say he's a fraud. So they'll turn around and then want us to actually follow the teachings of this perpetrator. That makes no sense. So anyway, just wanted to share that. We didn't forget. We did not forget.
I feel like the it was brilliant of Damon when he saw in that conversation that Polight was flaking to go live. I got to give kudos to Damon for actually being that heady in that moment and recognizing this guy is going to go off and spin a narrative if I don't do something. And so
Right.
kudos to Damon for
And
actually
then
going
for him
live
to
in that
say,
moment.
I wish we went live with this phone call. And David's like, "Oh, that's what you
Oh,
wish?
right.
Is that what you wish?"
Wish granted.
Granted, immediately. That was hilarious. So, next one. Let me share this. All right, here we go.
Actually is. I wouldn't use no chaser when I tell you that there are no Egyptian gods. I would tell you that. Okay. And that's part of the mythos. So right now, I'm under the presumption that you guys are scholars, or at least purport to be. So I'm gonna tell you something that you may not have heard before, and then I'm gonna let you know that there are no Egyptian gods. Let me see the board. I'll just show them something real quick, right? If you could hold the board a little bit for me. Good looking. Just hold that real quick. Yeah, that'd be cool. I appreciate it. Very rarely an enemy allows you to, he holds the gun, he's gonna get shot with. This is a good look. We'll make it nice.
I'm bulletproof.
Make it nice. We'll
I'm,
make it nice.
I'm bulletproof.
The first thing we're gonna do is this, right? Now you know what? The first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna show you this one, right? And then we're gonna show you this one. All right, this is what we're gonna do first, right? And then, all right, I mean, zoom in different ways you can, right? BeatStars.com. Okay, okay, just let me know. I'm gonna just show it up there real quick. There you go, they got it, they see it. See it? Yeah, right there. All right.
Can you show the audience what is that?
I'll show it periodically. Okay, I'll show it periodically. I bet. So that's perfect. So on the top, right? This is a glyph that will represent Neter, right? But now understand that when most people are speaking Medu Neter, that they are speaking from a standpoint of the Middle Kingdom, and that's very important. See, I'm being fully honest with you because no matter what you do after I teach you this or share this, it wouldn't make a difference based on the debate. So if we go to Old Kingdom, I like the Old Kingdom archaic phonetic appreciation for this glyph, because what would happen is Neter would become Netcher, right? Phonetically, it'd be like a TCH, right? Netcher. And I like it because you can understand the English cognate of the same. Netcher, right? By no coincidence sound like nature, correct? And we certainly wouldn't call nature God, would we? Would you call nature God? BeatStars.com.
All right. So here is an example of a popular argument within the conscious community that ancient Kemet somehow did not, you know, did not worship any deities. You know what I mean? So that's very interesting. And Why would you think these guys would argue that, Chris? Like, why? Because you would think that it's pretty obvious that they did worship different gods, but what do you think?
Shoot, he was in master teacher mode. He was so spinning the narrative to come off as come off as like the guru. But I don't know. Again, to me, he's just trying to look cool, trying to sound cool and sound like he knows something. But so far, he got me confused. I was interested to see where he was going with it. I saw somebody in there put he drawing a bunch of red flags, and that's what I thought.
No, no, he's actually he was writing actual glyph characters,
No,
but
I thought the joke was funny though. Like he's
right,
drawing a
right,
bunch
right,
of
right,
red
right,
flags.
right. And I think part of the reason why they do this is so that it kind of preempts any conversation about their worldview, right? Because they like to talk about how spooky the Christians are, right? And you guys believe in all this, when knowing full well we could turn that around, be like, you guys aren't spooky, and they know that's coming. So to preempt that, oh well, there's nothing spooky about us because we don't believe in any gods, right? It's similar to when they say Jesus did not exist, even though the academic consensus is that he did. But if they can say that he don't exist, then they don't have to talk about him, because if he does exist, then we got to talk about the implications of his existence.
Yeah, he don't exist, but if he did, he's a copycat of Osiris. He's
Right, right. I don't know how you can have
a
both, but anyway, we're gonna look at what's people in the field. Do they agree with Polite's assertion that there were no actual gods in an ancient Kemet? So
do I get the guess?
if you like.
Let's go. Let's go.
All right, so this is from Ancient Egyptian Religion and Interpretation. Says it is undeniable that there is something altogether peculiar about the meaning which animals possess for the Egyptians. Elsewhere, in Africa or North America, for example, it seems that either the terror of animal strength or the strong bond, the mutual dependence of man and beast, in the case of cattle cults, for instance, explain animal worship. But in Egypt, the animal as such, irrespective of its specific nature, seems to possess religious significance. And the significance was so great that even the mature speculation of later times rarely dispensed with animal forms in plastic or literary images referring to the gods. But there was nothing metaphorical in the connection between God and animal in Egypt. It is not as if certain divine qualities were made articulate by the creature. That's, by the way, that's Polite's whole argument, right? It is not as if certain divine qualities were made articulate by the creature in the way the eagle elucidates the character of Zeus, we observe. On the contrary, a strange link between divinity and actual beasts, so that in times of decadence, animal worship may gain a horrible concreteness that one finds mummified cats, dogs, falcons, bulls, crocodiles, and so forth, buried by the hundreds in vast cemeteries, which filled the Egyptologists with painful embarrassment. For this, we must admit, is polytheism with a vengeance. Nevertheless, these are grotesque but significant symptoms of a characteristic trait in Egyptian religion. Right? The Egyptologist is filled with painful embarrassment because it's not what Polite says. Nature, principles. It says, for this we must admit it's polytheism with a vengeance. It is hardcore polytheism. It's not poetic. It's not, metaphoric. It is just full, uncut, unbridled polytheism. Chris, your thoughts?
You know what? I was not aware of or at least I was aware of animal mummies. I guess I wasn't aware of the significance of and the way that this is described in this book here, wow, that was kind of eye opening for me. That, oh wow, that they're right. Like they saw animals as deity in a different way than others saw their attributes as kind of signifying something
Right.
supernatural. So yeah, that's pretty interesting.
So this is from Liquids and Temple Ritual. This is from UCLA Encyclopedia of Egyptology. It says here in temple rituals, wine was also offered to various deities. In the pyramid text of the fifth dynasty, King Shahura, for example, the king was shown offering wine to the goddess Sekhmet. Besides its general significance as an item that pleased the deities, the offering of wine took on certain specific religious and mythological associations. You don't give nature wine to drink unless you really believe this is a god. They believe that that deities could drink wine. This is not a principle of nature here. They really believed there was a being that liked some good wine. All right. Milk was also offered to other deities, among them Hathor and Osiris in various rituals. Bowls of milk were brought before Osiris daily. Why would they give milk daily to Osiris if Osiris is just nature or an ideal or attributes? As we see here, the indigenous people in their religion, that's not what they thought. They believed Osiris existed and he had a thing for dairy. Every day he had to have his milk. All right. So during the Old Kingdom and First Intermediate period, small amulets of hands and feet were commonly included in bracelets and anklets. These amulets protected the limbs and extremities of their wearers while possibly conferring abilities such as dexterity, creative potential, or speed. Often these amulets were made of carnelian and orange redstone. The color, reminiscent of blood, would bring power and energy to the amulet. So, why do they believe this? Unless they believe in some sort of supernatural realm.
And at least it's from the kingdom that he prefers, right?
Also, we have here a star amulet from the Middle Kingdom. Right, the star amulet was found in the same tomb with a sawet bead and a wooden box. The Sa amulet extends protection to the wearer, whether in life or death. Why would they need this? Unless there was a supernatural realm that they believed in. It wasn't just nature. All right. We have heart amulets. Right. The heart was the source of intelligence, feelings, and actions. A person's memory was also housed in the heart, and so at the judgment ceremony, weighing of the heart, in the afterlife, the heart was able to speak on behalf of the deceased, accounting to Osiris for a lifetime of deeds. Therefore, heart amulets were only used on the mummy to protect the owner's organ and to ensure that his heart gave a positive response at judgment. The people really believe that at the end of their lives, when they dead, they had to give an account to Osiris, not to nature. And by the way, they needed the amulet to keep the heart from telling the truth about their deeds. Because look what it says here, to ensure that his heart gave a positive response at judgment. You know what I mean? So there's a little fudge factor going on here. So when they talk about, oh, you got the Ten Commandments from the Book of the Dead. Yeah, well, I don't see this in the Ten Commandments. Like, let me make sure my heart doesn't snitch on me. You don't find that in the Torah. All right. And now here are magic wands. Yes, you heard correctly. Magic wands. Wands such as these were common feature in burials of the late Middle Kingdom. This one shows signs of wear on one tip, suggesting it was used over a period of time before being placed in the tomb. The wand is decorated one side with the figures of protective natural principles. No deities, most of whom carry knives to ward off evil spirits. So before there was Hogwarts, there's ancient Kemet. They had magic. Now here's the thing, right? Archaeology has, no pun intended, barely scratched the surface when it comes to recovering ancient artifacts. Right? It's still in its infancy stage, even though it's been going on since like the 1920s. Right? The fact that they found so many magic wands right now means that this was a huge thing in ancient Kemet. It's huge. Look at that. That they had a whole bunch of them, different styles and everything. This was not to to protect themselves from the principles of nature. No, gods. They needed to invoke certain deities to protect. In fact, I've also read that these ones were used to protect children. That they will use this wand to etch out a barrier in the crypt so that these demons won't go into the baby's crypt where they sleep. And they will use these wands as a protective barrier, a force field, if you will. Chris.
I don't have much to add on this one, man. But it is kind of telling the story itself.
Right. I mean, his argument is just that doesn't make any sense. So, Polite's argument about it being metaphoric or attributes, is this an original argument from Polite? Where do you think Polite might have gotten this form of argumentation?
I have
What?
no clue where we're gonna go with this, but I'm gonna guess Dwight.
Yes, the white man has risen once again. Dun, dun, dun. This is from the Journal of Hellenic Studies by Scott Mincrief. Again, with Plutarch, as with all foreigners, the animal gods of Egypt were a sore stumbling block, and he is fain to pass them off as mere symbols or as utilitarian interpretations. As a matter of fact, the Egyptians worshipped their animal deities without assigning any fanciful reason for doing so, as they had always worshipped them from the time that they were the local gnome totems in the pre-dynastic period. Plutarch didn't like that. He didn't like the idea that these guys actually worship, that these were actual gods. Like, there's no way it could be. It has to be just symbolic of other things. That's Polite's argument. The fact that in one district the crocodile was venerated, that in another it was hated and haunted, that in one town sheep were eaten and in another considered sacred, that the people of Onosrius, who were fish worshippers, descended one day on the people of Sinopolis, who were having a fish dinner, and sacrificed and ate all the latter's dogs, thereby causing a riot which led to rough usage on the part of the Roman garrison, did not seem to be the Egyptians extraordinary or illogical in the least. So they were beefing because these dudes were having a fish dinner, and these other dudes was like, "That's our guy that you're eating. We ain't gonna let that fly." And they went and they started a fight. So they didn't think these were divine principles and attributes. They really believed that these were the gods that they worship. And how dare you eat the gods? Okay. Um, but the Greeks and Egyptians, or Egypto Greeks, brought up under Hellenic influence, desired, like Plutarch himself, to steer a middle course between atheism and superstition. Wherefore, the grosser side of the Egyptian religion was dropped or treated symbolically, while Osiris, Isis, Anubis, and one or two other deities were picked out and declared not only to be the Egyptian equivalents of some greater dwellers on Olympus, but in accordance with the Platonic feeling of the time, to be world spirits carrying out the bidding of the logos. They didn't like actual Egyptian religion, Plutarch. He didn't like it. He thought it was gross. So him and other people like him, they basically made a remix, and they try to form this balance of basically a supernatural form of atheism, which is exactly what we see with Polight and many others in the conscious community. They wear all the accoutrements. You see them. They wear the ankh and the beads and the Heru lock. But then when you ask them about their deities, like, oh no, the guys don't exist. Those are just natural principles. Huh? Again, they're stirring a middle course between atheism and superstition. But they're not getting that from the actual indigenous people of Kemet. They're getting it from people like Plutarch. And he's the worst person to get anything from because in the Handbook of Egyptian Mythology, his stated purpose in writing the book was to seek the universal truths that he believed lie behind the myths and beliefs of all cultures. He quotes other writers' far fetched allegorical interpretations of Egyptian myth. His own comments on the nature of myth often sound surprisingly modern. He did not believe that myths described events that had actually happened. He didn't believe it. Even though we know that indigenous people did, there was a concreteness behind those deities. But when it came to Plutarch, like, nah, it can't be true. Going back to the Journal of Hellenic Studies, it need hardly to be said that all this is not in the least Egyptian. Yet it is interesting to note how throughout the treatise, Plutarch seems thoroughly to believe that his ideas are the same as those held by the educated Egyptian priesthood, and that he, in common with them, is possessed with an esoteric gnosis about the Egyptian deities. The vulgar might indulge in the gross forms of superstition derided by Greeks and Romans alike, but for those initiated into the mysteries of Isis, there was the doctrine on which he dilates in his treatise, of which the polytheism and worship of animals is only the outer form. So Plutarch is going out of his way to basically despiritualize ancient Kemetic religion. And that's what these guys do. They do the same thing. So the ascetic philosopher of Alexandria, who adopted a shaven crown and white linen robes, was a member of an artificial esoteric society that was called into being by the intermixture of Greek and Egyptian civilization. But it is to Plutarch we owe our knowledge of this society, and his mistakes and misconceptions show us the distance by which he had become separated from its Egyptian original. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the guy. And speaking of the guy, we have the guy himself. Damon Richardson is in the building, ladies and gentlemen. What's going on, Dame?
Hey, doing good. How are you brothers doing?
Well, doing well. We're glad for you that you.
Doing well. Good to see you, bro.
Yes,
All
sir.
right, my man. Good to see you all. Good to see you all. All right, all right.
So we could
What's
take a
the
little left turn here. Basically, Damon, what I've been doing on my channel is I've been doing a series called "Is This Your King?" And what I've been doing is I've been going at the master teachers of the conscious community. The Ray
gotcha?
Hagans, the Phil Valentines, and we just been showing just the falsehood of their teaching. And of course, I can't really do the series unless we discuss Brother Polite. He's he's one of the younger pillars, but a pillar nevertheless. He's gone viral several times. It's very rare that you go through your timeline without seeing a TikTok or Instagram post about Polite, right? Maybe not so much now because of the certain legal troubles he's having, but nevertheless, he's been a gateway drug of sorts, right, to the conscious community. And many people have their faith shaken by his charismatic and his rhetorical flourishes. Now,
Right.
Damon, you have intimate knowledge of dealing with Mr. Polite, and we was talking earlier about the debate that you guys were supposed to have, and I was just wondering if you could just quickly just reiterate a little bit of the backstory behind you and Polight.
Yeah, very, very interesting, very interesting series of events. So, as I recall, um, what was this now? About 3 years ago, I think it was now just about 3 years ago. I put out a post on Facebook where I said, "Hey, somebody tell Polight that he needs to put up or shut up and and debate me." And so word got out. Word got out, and somebody from our community contacted him, and um, he responded. And so a text group was created, I believe, and some initial phone conversations, and it was all going good. We had some really, I'll be honest, very early on, it was some really good conversation. He was very more than amicable. He was very cordial. In fact, he said a lot of things that were somewhat surprising to me. He in our initial conversations by phone, most of those conversations lasted at least an hour or longer. He praised the church for the things that we have done in the Black community, and cited that, noted rather, that the conscious community could learn, the so-called conscious community could learn from us, whereas we have material results from the things that we have talked about. Like we're actually doing what we're talking about, not just talking about it.
Right.
And we have an entire legacy of institutions and movements and things that have benefited. The Black church has benefited Black people, and he talked. Again, I was, based on all the things that I have heard him say, I was taken aback, to be honest, and so I let him talk. I definitely let him talk, and I was listening. I was like, oh wow, and he said a lot of things in praise of me as well, which I was also surprised, because I didn't think that he was really familiar with me. And so he mentioned on several occasions that he could tell that I was, an intelligent brother, very learned, well read, that I was scholarly, and somebody that he was not used to
Right.
having conversation with, so forth and so on, and mentioned that this debate would be his toughest challenge. These are all the things he said. Man, this would be my toughest challenge. I've had a number of different debates, but this would be my greatest challenge right here. And so he spoke very highly of me, and also my sense of business, because when we talked about the debate, we talked about on the back end of it, what kind of platforms we would use and how it would be monetized to equally benefit both of us for our time, and how that would be handled. And we talked about that, and he was like, yeah, this is wonderful. I like talking to you. You're about business, you're about doing things in the right way and fairness and all these different things. So all that was really going good. Then we got down in another conversation to the logistics of the debate, in terms of where it would happen, and even, of course, the topic of the debate, because that still had not really been decided yet. And
Right.
so I made some suggestions. He was talking about having the debate up in Harlem, and I reminded him that Harlem is, for a lot of people, a little bit more inaccessible than Brooklyn might be. And, that there were other venues in Brooklyn that were more accessible than to have, because I estimated that there would be a number of people just in support of me coming from out of town.
Right.
I knew not only the tri-state area, but of course Philly, Boston, you name it, coming DC, Virginia.
Right.
And so I was thinking about that. But all he mentioned, I can't remember the name of the ballroom up in Harlem. It wasn't
The
the auto.
Alhambra
Say it
ballroom,
again.
I think. The Alhambra ballroom,
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what. Yeah, I was trying to
The,
remember the name
the
of it. So,
Alhambra,
but
right? Alhambra, right? Right.
yeah, that's exactly right. So I said, well, the history of those kind of ballrooms. I said, my issue is that because they are public places, I said if there's going to be any trouble there, that would ideally be the kind of place that such a thing would happen. I said, if historical case in point, Malcolm.
Right.
And
Right.
I said, but one thing that I do know, I said, and I expect that there would be some people there who might be looking to make trouble. It's just the nature of what sometimes you have to deal with when worldviews and ideologies are at stake. Some people are very passionate about that, as they are about sports teams and this, that, or the other. And people, I said, I'm not putting, I'm just thinking realistically. So I said, I think it should be in a church. And I said, and the reason for that is not to advantage me in any way, but that I know that no matter what these people believe, they have parents and aunts and uncles and grandparents who are still very much connected to the church. And one thing I know about it is that they may say what they say about Christians and all that out in the street, but they know how to conduct themselves when they're in church.
Right.
I said, and all of that get your hands out of my pocket kind of stuff, that won't happen in the church, but
Right.
that would happen in the ballroom. I said,
Right. Right.
so he was like, you know what, man, that's a good thought. Yeah, let's do it. So I said, I've got a couple of venues in mind. If you know of any, I said, my understanding is you're from Brooklyn. Maybe you can help out in that way to secure a church venue. I said, but I've got a couple in mind
Right.
already. So we agreed on that. Boom. And so we started discussing the topic. And at first, he wanted the topic to be essentially more one-sided. And I'd have to see if I even still have those
Text message.
text messages there. Um,
Now you called me. I think once you secured the subject, you
right.
called me
That is
because
correct.
I live in Brooklyn, so you wanted me to see if I could scout some historical black
Yeah,
churches and
that's right. We
whatnot.
had that conversation
And then
to
when you
do.
told me the subject, I'll let you say. I won't say it. But when you told me the subject, I'm like, you're kidding. He actually agreed to that. I'm like, oh, this is
Yeah,
a. I said, this is a what we used to call back in the days a jux. Like, oh, we're gonna
right.
take this dude. Like, this is like you. He really agreed to this subject. I was shocked when you told
That's
me.
exactly right.
So
I'm
yeah,
looking at the
continue.
text messages and I don't see some of the earlier ones, but nonetheless, the initial topic was one-sided. And I mentioned to him, I said, now that won't work. I said, because in an actual debate, so, and you can tell that these guys don't do real debates. They don't. I said, because in an actual debate, there has to be an affirmative and a negative.
Right.
Somebody is affirming a view, and another person is holding a negative view, and which is a view itself, and they have to be defending that. Both persons are defending their view. I said, now there'll be a rebuttal period, but everybody in there is arguing for something,
Right.
right? So I said, in this, what you're suggesting, you don't have a view. You're just essentially in the debate to poke holes in mine, but you're not arguing in defense of anything. I said, you understand what I mean by that? Because that can't work. That's not a debate. That's just a maybe a cross examination. you're just playing the role of an antagonist at best.
Right.
And so he understood that, and I threw out a couple of debate titles that proposed that both of us hold a particular position. One takes the negative, one takes the affirmative.
Right.
He agreed to that, and that was when I called you. And essentially the debate was really going to be about what I debated Richard Carrier on, which
Right.
was mythicism. You know, he wanted to debate the position that Jesus was essentially a construct of borrowed Greek and borrowed Egyptian mythology, that he was
Right.
essentially um, invented, to say
Right.
the least.
A composite sketch
A
of various.
composite. There you go. I was
Right.
looking for the word. I knew it was a C word there. He was a composite construct of of Egyptian and Greek mythological figures.
Right.
And that was going to be his position, where I was going to be arguing for the actual historicity of Jesus, which I knew was an absolute slam dunk. Like, there's just no
Right.
way that
Right.
you can miss
Right.
that. That's
Right.
like, you know, it's I couldn't believe that. So I ensured that he knew what my task was. I said, now I'm arguing. I said, now we're not arguing about Jesus' divinity, right? I said, you know, I said, right, we're just arguing about whether he was a person of time, space, dimension. Yep. Still couldn't believe that he was consenting to,
Right.
to this, because, again, even atheist historians and scholars will tell you in
Right.
absolutely no with no uncertainty at all that it is a fact that Jesus was a historical person who suffered under Pontius Pilate. Like, that's a historical fact. Only now do you really have a growing number of essentially internet kind of mythicists following people like Carrier and
Robert
and again, that
Price.
just goes to
Right.
show
Right.
that a lot of your so-called conscious community folks, they're just following the cues of whites who are typically pseudo scholars themselves. And even the ones who might be scholars, like for instance, Carrier is not a respected scholar because he holds no respectable views that other historians and scholars would even really take him seriously about, right?
Right.
So he's not a
Right.
respected, he's not, he's not respected at all in academia or scholarship. So it's funny that the real architects behind so-called Black conscious thinking as it relates to spirituality and all this are white folks, very folks that they are saying are deceiving us, and that we're getting all of our talking points and beliefs from, and this,
Right.
that, or the other. So the closer we got to the time of the debate, I didn't hear from him much. I didn't hear from him. We had one other conversation. He was on his way. He said, and he was in Florida, down in Florida, he said, doing something for Mayweather on some business. If that was even true or not, I doubt it. But said he was driving from Miami to Orlando and wanted to call me. I'm sure he really needed to stay awake. So, I obliged and was on the phone with him for a couple of hours, and we talked about the upcoming debate and marketing. And he had this idea of coming up with some cheesy flyer from
Yeah. The
some
initial flyer was trash. Oh my God. It
yeah,
was terrible.
from some app that he had on his phone. And whereas his picture was superimposed and mine was some small little picture over in the corner, and then their typical kind of talk, Christianity on trial and all this other stuff. So I said, hey, listen, I got people who can do professional flyers, marketing. I said, number one, I don't like stuff that's not well done. You know, I don't like my picture even on it. I said this doesn't look classy at all. Doesn't look professional. I said I got people who would do that for free. Uh, and number two, I don't like the design of it. If this is a debate, then our pictures need to be equal. I said in a boxing match, you don't have one boxer's picture
Right.
superimposed over the. I said, you know, that's essentially attempting to gain some sort of psychological advantage just in the marketing alone.
Right.
And I'm like, you know, that's not. Oh no, no, no! You know that's going to be the first one, but the second one, you can do the same thing, and then your picture be big and mine be small. I'm like, but why though? What? Why is that even necessary? Why not do two equal pictures with the verse, Damon Richardson versus, you know, Brother Polight or whatever, head to head, just like in a boxing photo.
Right.
It's,
Right.
I mean, you know, come on. He insisted on putting it out, which he did on his Facebook and I think Instagram and some other places. He did a couple of videos along with it, and in the video, he was again saying how this was going to be his greatest challenge, that he had never debated someone of my caliber, and had that flyer sitting out there in in social media space. And boy, I sure wish that I could find it, but nonetheless,
Right.
yeah, it's not on here. Some of the
So
earlier,
let's fast forward a little bit to when
yeah,
Sonetta gets
uh-huh.
involved. How does Sa get involved?
Yeah. So originally, and it's interesting when we talked about the logistics, the financials of the debate, he praised me for um my thinking with regard to how we would both get paid and how we would use our own streaming gateways, and how at the door we would split the profit. So 100% of everything on his streaming gateway, if he had people watching, kind of like pay per view, that he would get 100% of that. And he can charge whatever he wants to charge. If he wanted to charge $100, that's fine. I was just going to do something more reasonable. You know, like maybe $10, right? So, but 100% of that would have been mine. And then for people who were in person at the venue, we would split that at the door and have trusted persons counting that and ensuring that we both got a split of the purse, you know, in boxing promotion language. And he agreed to that, and he was like, I like the way you do business, you know, kind of stuff. And then said specifically, we don't need Sonetta in on this because we got it. And I agree with the way you do business, the way that your ideas behind this. We don't need a middleman in this like Sonetta, because again, it's only something in it for him, but that's him taking away from um our cut, right? So to be very, very clear, there never was any issue about money. Like there was money to be made, and we were both going to make money, as we should. In every debate, especially of a large caliber, there's usually fees associated with watching the debate. Some debates are free, all are not. And that is to ensure that the persons debating are compensated for the time that they spent preparing. Somebody says, well, I don't like that. Well, if you wanted to watch the debate, obviously, um, you know, they're not doing it for your own entertainment. So your own interest alone is what justifies the demand and the compensation, right? So people were going to be interested, which meant that people were going to watch, and that meant that we were going to be compensated at least very nicely for the time that we put into preparing for the debate. So that was never a question at all.
Right.
And
Right.
he actually did not want Sonetta to get involved because he felt like a middleman, a third party, would be completely unnecessary. So
Right.
that was the last conversation we had. And the next thing I knew, I had been calling him, texting him, hey man, when's a good time for us to get together? We're getting closer. We're a few months away. We need to get together and nail some things down, like an exact date. We
Right.
need that. We only had a tentative date at that point. And he said, no, I'm gonna hit you, man. Give me about give me a week, closer to a week. Oh man, give me a day. I'll hit you tomorrow. And I remember that was like on a Friday. And well, he did. He hit me that next day, that Saturday, when I saw the call come and said, oh, good, Polight. Sitting right here at my desk, answered the phone and said, hey, this is Polight. I got Sal on the phone. And all right then and there, I knew that this was not going to go good. And again, based on the previous conversations that we already had, what we had already come up with and decided on, now he's got Sal on the phone, and I already know how they get down,
Right.
So they started talking about a weigh-in as a necessary segue for the debate. Well, this is how we do it. I said, I get all of that. I said, but you're debating somebody that doesn't necessarily need to consent to a weigh-in. If that's how y'all do it, that's y'all. But I'm not part of that community. So you're asking me to agree to something that is completely unnecessary for me. I said, especially if the weigh-in involves essentially what really amounts to a smaller debate.
Right.
I said, now, I'm not scared of nothing. I said, but I'm signing up for one debate. It's not two. I said, so I've seen what you guys call weigh-ins, and they're essentially mini debates. I said, I don't like that. I said, and it just seems to me that the reason that all of a sudden now, because this never came up in any of our conversations before, seems to me that the reason that you want to do that is because you and Sa have already discussed how he can make some kind of money on it, even if it's the promotion leading up to the main debate or the main event. I said, that's what I'm seeing. And plus, even further, that really cuts me out of the whole picture. I'm not trying to be somebody's spectacle while other people make money. And then, no, I said, no, I said, I don't like it. Well, it's the way we do it, man, and blah, 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 this, that, and the other. So, I don't really know if this thing is really going to happen now. I said, are you serious? I said, this was set in stone in all of our previous conversations, and now it's you don't know because of a weigh-in. I mean, I said, what do you want to do? You want to do the debate or you want to do the weigh-in? Like, I thought you wanted to do the debate, right? I mean, what seems like this is more important to you than the actual debate. I said, I tell you what, as a compromise, here's what I am willing to do, because I really want this debate to happen. I really want it to happen. So as a compromise, here's what I am willing to do. I said, now, you guys are using language like it's a boxing event. So you're talking about a weigh-in. I said, so, okay, let's go with that. I said, but you know what happens at a weigh-in, right? Just trash talking and an actual weigh-in. The crowd gets a chance to look at both boxers. They get a chance to size each other up. They do a little trash talking, really for promotional sake, but there's actually no fight there. A weigh-in is not a fight. It's not a pre-fight. It's not a pre-fight.
Right.
It's a weigh-in. I said, so if you want to do this weigh-in, I said, here's what I propose as a compromise. I said, our people, they like to see this, that, or the other. I said, sounds like your people like to see blood carnage. Like they like to see violence and all kinds of other stuff. Well, they got to be able to know if the other person is intelligent and this, that, and the other. I said, what makes your audience assume that I'm unintelligent and you are? I said, I don't get that. I said, but for intelligence sake, here's what we can do. You can have Sonetter ask a couple of questions, 2 or 3, give me and you just a minute or two to answer. I said, now, no rebuttal of each other's answer, but just an opportunity for the audience to hear our intellect in the way that we approach answering that question. I said, that ought to throw a little bloody meat to your audience to satisfy their craving to hear something. Then they'd be able to tell. I don't know why I've got to pass their litmus test for intelligence, but they'd at least be able to hear the way that I articulate my answer and know that you're dealing with somebody who knows what he's talking about. And I said, how's that as a compromise? I said, because that sounds more like a weigh-in, if you ask me, than you attempting to create some mini debate.
Right.
He was unwilling to accept that. He was unwilling to accept that, talking about now I'm messing up his money. I said, money? Money? We talk like I did the Allen Iverson. We talking about money? we talking about money? And so I got on. So this conversation went on for a good hour before I had the good sense to go live and say Polight is backing out of the debate, because I knew that if I didn't do that, they were going to spin the narrative and say that I was running from Polight. Now, he can say a whole lot of things, but one thing he can't say is I ran. The world knows that he ran. The world heard him insult his own community, said that they were essentially suckers, and all kinds of other stuff on that phone call. And so that's pretty much what happened, is that it just
Right.
he
I remember that when he said, you know, I wish we was going live right now. And you're like, oh, you wish we was going live? Well, guess what, buddy?
Listen. Hey man, listen. I definitely was born that night, but it wasn't last night, right?
Oh
man, that was 50 years ago. Queens General Hospital definitely wasn't last night. But my thinking is several things. One, he couldn't finesse me, him and Sa.
Right.
So that really ticked him off. Two, he had to find the easiest way. See, here's what people do. I've learned this, especially I've been in ministry now. April 29th. So at the end of this month, it will be 33 years since I preached my first sermon. So that's a good little minute. I've been around for a while. And one of the things that I've learned in ministry, observing people, is that oftentimes when people don't want to do something, they'll create an unrealistic contingency, which they feel gets them off the hook, and so for him, he really didn't want to do the debate, probably figuring this is going to be a slaughter, won't look good. So let me try to get Damon to agree to something that I know he won't agree to, and then use that as a pretext to back out of the debate. And it worked for him. Then he pretended to be highly offended to the point of, I just won't even possibly talk to this guy ever again. Now, I've heard people insult his mama and all kinds of stuff. And him and Tazariak was about to fight.
Right. Cross the line.
Everybody remembers that. And next thing you know, a couple of years later, if not a year later, they're buddy hanging out in Beverly Hills and all this other stuff, so forth and so on. So I know there's nothing that I could have ever done that was the unpardonable sin and so unforgivable. After all of the kind of things, people like Zion Lex and all these kind of people and these bitter kinds of disrespectful exchanges that he has had with people who were Black Hebrew Israelites and so forth and so on, I know Damon Richardson didn't say anything to him that was that offensive and that unpardonable to where He just couldn't find a way
Right.
to make this happen or communicate with me. It
Well,
was a
Dame, earlier in my video, I started my video by playing. You remember the video where he shoots up the Bible? He takes the Bible to a
yeah,
firing. So
yeah.
I
And
started my video with
this is
that.
the whole Holy Bible.
Right.
Yeah,
So, and my point was, the minute he did that, y- the, this idea of you being offended goes out the door.
that's exactly
You
right.
can't
Yeah,
feign offense now when you did that to this sacred text of ours. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
you did that to solicit a response. You did that
That's
on
exactly
purpose,
right. And
right?
and
So
and
yeah,
and not to mention, let's be clear about that. If Brother Polight had done that to the Quran, there would be no Brother Polight today.
right,
Brother Polight would be like Kevin Samuels.
mm,
You know where he is, right?
right,
He wouldn't be on the earth because Muslims take high offense
right,
to that, and they have absolutely no problem taking you up off the earth
right.
with full justification from the Quran for doing so.
Yep,
They would put a fatwa on your head, and that would be it. So it's interesting how he would do that to the Bible and then feign to be offended, but you would never catch them doing that to the Quran.
nope,
And I've said this even about Beyonce. I'll take the pages from the holy book and plug my menses. She would have never said that about the Quran. There would be no security that would be tight enough to protect Beyonce from being taken up off the face of the earth. But she had no problem saying that about the Bible and even showing Holy Bible in the video when she said it.
right,
People who are cowardly know who to talk to because they're already essentially predicting what your response might be or might not be. And one thing they know about Christians is that we may get offended, but we're still peaceful even when we are offended. So, like you said, that took that right off the table. The very fact that that's still out there, it's the audacity of him to even feign to be offended when
right,
he has committed what would be one of the ultimate offenses towards Christians by shooting
right,
up our holy book and
right,
then saying, "Here's your holy Bible." Right.
right,
So,
right.
yeah, it's just it's what we all know it was. As Mob Deep said, he was scared to look, he was shook, and it's just what it is. And now he wouldn't want to admit that. Obviously, nobody would. But the receipts are all there. That's
Right,
what scared people do, is
right,
that they create a pretext to justify their backing out as a legitimate way to cover the fact that he's just fearful. And then he
right,
went on a week or so later, back on YouTube, debating basic nobodies,
right.
and still calling Christians out, Christian pastors. And I remember there was one, he was on Facebook one day. I call Christian pastors out. This probably wasn't even a good month after. And man, listen, I must have seen my name tagged 100 times where people were like, a pastor, and you ran from Pastor Damon, they would tag my name. I must have
Right.
seen 100 tags, and I was already over there by then. And he would ignore. I even seen him like a few of those comments and even put a laughing emoji as a response to a few of those comments. But he did everything other than agree to having that debate because Polight knows that. I guess somebody might have told him, BK, that you have an unwinnable argument, right? I'm sure somebody went to him and was like, you can't win this debate. Like, there's
I
no way.
mean, Dame, that's one of the first things we learn as apologists, how to defend the historicity of Jesus. That's one of the first things we learned.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
So when you called me and told me that was the subject, I'm like, oh, this is an easy one. We got this guy, you
Sheesh.
know. But
Yeah. Yeah.
Dame, so after everything that has transpired, and it's been some time now, it's been some years. If he was to come to you now and say, you know what, you're right, I was running, whatever. Let's really do it. Would you still be open to debate him on that subject?
100. 100.
Ah
100,
man,
man.
I figured as such. Ah
Yes,
man.
sir.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much, Damon, for giving us that retelling of
Hey,
that
hey,
amazing time. Yeah,
he
Chris.
he he hawking he hawking those credit cards, talking about the government giving away money. Now, if you look up on YouTube his latest videos, so I'm pretty sure he needs some money. We should throw that lifeline out there and see if he's ready to have this debate.
Listen, with all the buildup and all the anticipation, it would probably be bigger now
Yeah,
than it would have been then.
This
Somebody
yeah,
hit him
hey
up.
hey this is Floyd Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao. It's a little late, but we still happy to get it.
yes,
Right,
yes,
right, right.
absolutely,
There you go. Listen,
absolutely.
hey,
Yeah,
somebody hit him up because um if not, I'm gonna tell you the one that's going to be big is if it still happens, maybe sometime either late in the year or next year, the debate with Dr. Wesley Muhammad from the Nation of Islam. Now,
wait. You're
light
debating
get
Wesley
in.
Muhammad? Wait. You're debating Wesley
So,
Muhammad?
well, he his spokesperson said that he agreed, and we just haven't had an opportunity
Wow.
to pretty much settle on the timing of it. But he's interested. He's agreed. And we whenever that comes around, and it will come around, that's going to be the debate of the century. He's just going to miss out. He's just
Wow.
going to miss
You heard
out.
it here first. I don't think anybody knew about this one. Wow.
Yeah.
Exclusive. Thank you. So what would
Absolutely.
be the subject though?
That has not been decided. But again, in the way we do it, they have to defend the position. And the one
Right.
thing that I am going to push for is, now we have seen probably historically only a handful of Nation of Islam debates, only a
Mm,
handful.
mm.
One was Malcolm when he debated James Farmer on national television, which I would argue that really wasn't a great debate, and James Farmer was definitely a greater debater. In fact, his character was portrayed in The Great Debaters. It was actually partly about
Mm.
his life. So we've seen that one. We saw at least one or two with Khalid Muhammad, who is
Right.
now deceased.
Right.
Never seen Elijah Muhammad debate. Never seen Louis Farrakhan debate. It's just something they don't do. And when they do debate, they just typically do that. I'm going to punch holes in Christianity kind of thing, poke holes in it, but I'm not going to defend the position. Well, in this debate, if he continues to agree with it, then he is going to have to defend the indefensible claims of the Nation of Islam, like all the Yaqub stuff, all their cosmogony, um, you
Yep.
know, a lost tribe of Shabazz in the wilderness of North America,
Mm.
all that, right? Their claim about the true history of Jesus being killed by a police officer in front of a bodega in Jerusalem. Oh, I'm going to get all of that, right?
Mm.
Yeah. So if this debate happens, he would have to do something that nobody in their camp has ever done, and that is to defend what they actually claim is true historically, right? So he won't have an opportunity to just try and poke holes in Christianity, because he's going to have to defend a position as well. So it is that very fact that would make this a most historical debate, because this would be the first time that anybody actually sees the Nation of Islam on the ropes.
Mm. That's
And
amazing.
and
Yeah.
yeah. So I won't be on the ropes. I'm gonna be right in the middle of the ring, and he will be on the ropes the whole night if he agrees to it, because he's gonna have to.
Oh, you gotta talk about the will too, the UFO, the will. They gotta
Oh
talk
yeah,
about that too. They gotta defend that
oh
too.
absolutely. And I got something for that too. I know exactly where Elijah Muhammad got that from.
Yep, yep.
Where he whose eschatology he borrowed.
Chariot of the gods. Chariot of the
There you
gods.
go. Yeah.
Oh man,
So
that's great. That's great.
yes,
But
indeed. So I'm excited about that. I really do pray that would happen, because this would also be an ex Nation of Islam person
mm,
arguing a high-ranking Nation of Islam
Yeah,
person.
he's big.
That would definitely be one for the ages right there, without a doubt. So that would be big. That would be big. And so
Yes, sir. Yes,
yeah,
sir.
yeah. Let's hope that that one. I would actually be more excited about doing that than I really would with Polight for several reasons. One, Dr. Wesley Muhammad actually has a earned PhD from the University of Michigan.
Right.
So he has very credible academic um, credentials in that sense, and nobody's going to be able to say that I took some minister from Temple number 13 or something like that
Right,
that
right,
doesn't
right.
know anything. No, this guy's right up there with Farrakhan, and he
Yep.
has more
Yep.
academia behind him than even Farrakhan does. So he would be legit. This is an official thing. What he says would officially represent their movement. So this would be the implications to this debate would I can't even begin to say how important it would be.
Well,
But for fun, I would still be interested in debating
of
Polight. That would just be a little tune-up kind of thing, just to
course, of course.
That's
get
the
Well, you
all
heard
of
it
way.
us.
here first.
That's
Yeah,
the way in.
That's the
yeah,
real way. Yeah,
that's
yeah,
just
yeah,
the
yeah.
way in, right?
Wesley Muhammad versus Damon Richardson, man. Let's just make sure. Let's pray that
Yeah,
that can go down, man. That needs to happen.
absolutely.
So, but with that,
Yeah.
we're gonna wrap things up. Damon, thank you so much for coming through and
Hey,
taking us
appreciate
down
you
memory
and Chris,
lane.
man.
You know what I mean? And he's still running. He's still running. So,
Yeah,
so
100
with
miles
that
a
being
run.
100 miles a ride. So with that being said, Damon, apologies in Detroit, and BK, we're signing off. Peace.